the crowd is going wild. A brand new season, that championship style. Big plays are coming, the rivalry's real. Get ready for that Pigskin Frenzy feel. It's college football, yeah, you know the deal. This is Pigskin Frenzy. Pigskin Frenzy.
Ready to rock and roll once again. I mean, we are fired up for some more Pigskin Frenzy. Continuing on with our conference standing projections, where we went through the ACC this past Tuesday. Go back and watch that episode and catch the full list on our socials as well. Just got done wrapping up with the ACC. Now we're on and upward to the Big 12. Moving on to the Big 12. Next week we go over the Big 10 and SEC, but right now the Big 12. Not any short of controversy, especially going on this offseason, but we're going to get right down to it. 16 teams in this conference. Only 2 are in the Big 12 title game in Dallas. Only 1 is first place at the end of the year in our predictions, at least. So, guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Podbean, or Apple, again, a huge thank you for tuning in and listening and taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back and watch, listen to some college football coverage presented by us. Guys, Podbean, Spotify, Apple, you know what to do. Follow and share around on all audio platforms as well. Catch us and subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe and follow and leave likes and comments down below on the YouTube episodes. Guys, catch us on True Voice Digital, inspiring faith-based content, unfiltered analysis from me, the prodigy of college football, the exclusive home of Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, catch us there, truevoice.digital.com. There's also our socials, X, Instagram, and TikTok at pigskin_frenzy. Hit the follow button there. Guys, we are super pumped, super fired up. Not only that, we give all the praise to our Lord and Savior Jesus, because without him, we would not be doing this show. We glorify him, we praise him, and if you want to come to know him, it's the best decision you can ever make in your life. Contact me, X, Instagram, and TikTok, and you can come to know him. Like I said, the best decision you can ever make is coming to know Jesus Christ. He is so good. We give him all the glory and all the praise for allowing us to be in college football media and to be in this space. Our mission and our goal as believers in him is to spread his name and to exalt him above ourselves. He must increase, we must decrease. So we glorify him and praise him, and we're so thankful for each and every day we get to do this. We're so thankful for this journey. And not only that, we can't thank you guys enough for tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday as our numbers keep climbing and as our journey keeps going. We cannot thank you guys enough for tuning in because it's a we show, and we want to deliver the best content for college football to you. So we're so thankful for you guys, and we cannot wait to keep on engaging with you and keep on, just growing. Keep on growing as you keep tuning in to the show. Guys, Big 12 conference standing projections for 2026. We're pumped. We're fired up. 16 teams. Pure football. So y'all can relax a little bit on, okay, it's going to be a little bit of a, I may touch a little bit on the Brendan Sorsby stuff when we get to Texas Tech side of things, but when you look at everything, you're like, man, we're going to take a little bit of a breather from all the stuff that's going on in the offseason with, the Big 12 and the Sorsby and the Texas Tech, all that stuff, all that mumbo-jumbo. We'll take a break from it for a little bit. We're talking purely from a football standpoint, and we're fired up to do that. Guys, without any further ado, let's rock and roll. Let's kick it off, man. Let's kick it off with 16. 16 through 1, counting down the list, our Big 12 conference standing projections for 2026. The full list will be out on Friday on all the socials, so tune in on Friday for that. Guys, number 16, Iowa State. Our first team and the number 1 team from last year. Last year, we picked Iowa State to win the whole conference. This year, we're picking them to finish dead last. It is a huge rebuild for Iowa State, and that's the reason why we have them at 16. I believe it is going to be a huge rebuild. It's going to take time for new head coach Jimmy Rogers to come in and kind of fix a lot of the stuff going on. I believe from Washington State, Jimmy Rogers did well up there. He's going back, to Iowa and going back to Iowa State. Can he turn Iowa State and kind of pick up where Matt Campbell left off. And Matt Campbell brought a lot of his guys and a lot of his staff from Iowa State to Penn State. He's bringing his vision and his culture in there. They're rebuilding. Can Iowa State turn into that powerhouse once again? Well, continue the same track record of success. Not really a powerhouse, but continue the same track record of success that they had with Matt Campbell. Can they do that with Jimmy Rogers and his system? Who knows? We don't know yet. It's going to take some time, I believe. I think that the roster turnover and the coaching transition is going to be a little bit kind of tight this year, especially with the schedule they got going on as well. Quarterback battle, we have Jalen Rayner from Arkansas State coming in. I expect him to win the job, which is going to be kind of a whole new system. He fits Jimmy Rogers' system as well. And then you got Zane Flores. He's battling in the QB battle. Zane Flores, the redshirt sophomore transfer, he's battling Jalen Rayner out for the job. But I think Jalen Rayner is going from Arkansas State, the transfer from Arkansas State rather, is going to get the job. I mean, you got some weapons around you in the running game with Cameron Petaway as well. You got Cody Jackson at receiver. You got Tyler Fortenberry at tight end. You got some weapons around you if you're the Cyclones, but the lines, the offensive line, that's going to be a little bit of work in progress as long as with the defensive line as well. You got some veteran presence on the defensive line, but you also got to add some depth to it as well. I think the depth is a real big issue for Iowa State right now. Their schedule's a little bit tough, and the transition can be a little bit tough for them as well, which is why we had them at 16. They open up their season against Southeast Missouri. So Southeast Missouri, then they play at Iowa week 2. They go back home to play Bowling Green. And then they play Utah at home in their Big 12 opener. They play West Virginia at home. So they get 2 good teams right there at home, which is good. They got to go to BYU on a Friday, October 9th, at BYU. Then they got to play at Arizona, back home against Oklahoma State. So that 3-game stretch right there is going to be a little bit tough. I mean, that stretch really is kind of tough. Utah, West Virginia, at BYU, at Arizona, back home against Oklahoma State. So if you're talking from September 26th to Halloween, that's a tough stretch of games for Iowa State, a rebuilding Iowa State. I just don't know just yet about Iowa State. At Baylor, back home against Cincinnati, they end the they have at UCF, and then they end the season at home against Kansas State, which they had a new coaching hire as well. We're going to talk about them here in a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of a transition for Iowa State. I think 16 has sufficed for them right now. There's a tough schedule, rebuilding right now. The culture is getting set in. They're bringing in a lot of new guys. I think it's just going to take some time, and it's going to be a solid rebuild. I think it's going to be one of those classic rebuilds where they finish this go-round dead last, but next year you may want to keep an eye on them, maybe. So let's just see. Iowa State finishing dead last on my list. Number 16 is Iowa State. So that's my 16th team, Iowa State. So overall, I just think that the rebuild could be a little bit too much this year. Let's see. Let's take a breather. Let's see what's happening next year. Don't jump the gun with Jimmy Rogers or anything like that yet. Wait until next year, I believe, for Iowa State. Number 15 on our list in our conference standing projections, number 15 is Colorado. Colorado is number 15, and I think that for Colorado, it's been kind of an iffy few seasons, to say the least, and our thoughts and prayers are with Coach Prime. I mean, I think he's finally now healthy, which is great news. Praise the Lord for that, and I'm glad that the Lord has blessed him with, he's now in good health, and that's always good to hear. So overall, just the team itself, coaching the team, and really just last year, right? So last year you go, you enter year 4 under Deion Sanders and Coach Prime. Last year they were 3-5, or 3-9. They ended the skid 0-5. They lost 5 straight to end the year. It's just kind of just tough because they, ever since losing Shadur Sanders and losing Travis Hunter, it's just been kind of a little bit dicey for them. Right now, they once again, relied heavily on the transfer portal, and they have some production now that could make a difference. Maybe they could make a difference. Brendan Marion, their new offensive coordinator, they're going to have a very run-heavy, go-go type of offense coming into Boulder, Colorado. So we're going to see what happens there. Coordinator change. Defense is going to look a little bit the same, which is the defense was tough and stingy, but it was mainly the offensive system that was just kind of like, we need to get something going on the offensive side of the ball. So Colorado coming in from a 3-9 season, not really with good momentum, but we can see if they can create some momentum as they head into the season. I mean, Julian Lewis, they have Utah transfer Isaac Wilson going in there, so Isaac Wilson now at Colorado along with Julian Lewis. That's the quarterback battle going on now. We can see if Julian Lewis can start for him. It's a leaning towards that direction, but Isaac Wilson can be a predominant factor for the team. We can see what's going on there. You have a lot of receiving corps as well. You have Joseph Williams, DeAndre Moore Jr., you have Richard Young from Alabama in the backfield and running backs, and then you got Damian Henderson II from Sacramento State. Defense, if the linebackers and the defense can stay healthy, that's going to be good for them. That's going to be their strength of the defense is the linebackers. I think the secondary needs to kind of, clean up a little bit, but the linebackers, if they stay healthy, can be a really strong asset to the Buffalo's team. I think the biggest thing for Colorado is, can they stay healthy? And do they have the actual depth to compete with a lot of these teams in a deep conference like the Big 12? Again, the second question that we can all ask, because we've been asking that for a little bit for Colorado. Is the depth enough? So we're going to see. We're just going to figure it out. I have them at 15 because I think their schedule's a little bit tough, and I just don't know if they have the depth just yet to hang in there overall. So you got Weber State opening up on Saturday. Excuse me. You have Georgia Tech opening up on Thursday, September 3rd at Georgia Tech. You have to then go back to Colorado and play Weber State at home, at Northwestern, at Baylor, back home against Texas Tech, back home against Utah, at Oklahoma State. Tough 3-game stretch there. You get Texas Tech and Utah at home, but then you got to go on the road to play Oklahoma State, go back home and play Kansas State, very tough, at Arizona State, back home against Houston, at Cincinnati, back home to finish their season against UCF. That's going to be a very tough schedule for them. Again, I just don't know if they have the strength right now to handle it right now at this point in time. Colorado's 15 on our conference standing projections list because I just don't know if they have the depth right now to handle their schedule and to handle the brunt of that schedule. Because I think there's all these teams, to me, at least should be favored or close to being favored against this. Besides maybe Weber State, maybe a couple others, maybe. I think all the teams on this schedule, you're going to be favored against them. So right now, number 15 is Colorado in our conference standing projections list for the Big 12. Number 14 is UCF and Scott Frost. Scott Frost once again entering his second year in his second tenure of UCF, coming back to UCF. Going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen with UCF. I mean, Gus Malzahn retired a couple of years ago, enters Scott Frost. Alex Grinch at the defensive coordinator spot. Steve Cooper on the offensive coordinator spot. Can they get some of that magic back to how they were when Scott Frost was there in his first tenure? That's a big question going into this season. Can they get some of that magic back? Can they, because out of the expansion of the Big 12, they're the only team that has not had and produced a winning season. They are the only expanded new coming team that has not produced a winning season in the Big 12. That's saying something a lot about UCF. Can they get a winning trajectory going for this? Now, can they, because they relied a little bit on the portal, can they turn this into a legitimate and turn this team into a legitimate Big 12 contender? I think that they retain a few key veterans, which is going to help them out in the long run. But quarterback, they have Alonzo Barrett III coming in from JMU. That could be an underrated threat at QB for them. I think the concern about him, though, is I would like to think is an injury, because he's rehabbing an injury. In the quarterback room, you also got Dante Carr, Caleb Annett, and then Rocco Marriott in the quarterback room. So you got a very underrated quarterback room in the Big 12. I would think Barnett the third is probably your guy. in hopes that he is healthy enough to start and play the first game of the year. So we're going to see. You have Tavion Swint and Duke Watson. So the offense is shaping up nicely. So you got two good running backs, good quarterback there if he's healthy enough. Horns Lockett at the defensive tackle spot. He's returning to anchor that defensive line. He was going to be in the portal, but he decided to stay and return to Orlando. I think the big thing right now for them is the offensive line. Can they get the trenches going up front in the offensive line? I think that's the biggest question mark right now for the UCF team is the development of that offensive line. And that's where I kind of put them at 14 because I think they have some of the talent coming in for UCF. I think they can recruit well. I just think that right now the development of the team, and at least the offensive line, is the question mark and is what can hold them back to 14, especially with a tough schedule coming up in the Big 12. So right now, opening up, they got Bethune-Cookman. That's a win. You get that as a win. That's 1-0. Then you got to play Pitt. So at Pitt in week 2, back home against Georgia State. Then you're opening up against TCU, your Big 12 opener, at home. Then you got to go at Houston, at Oklahoma State, back home against BYU. Very tough 3-game stretch there. Then you got back home against Baylor, at Kansas, back home against Arizona State. Then you got Iowa State at home, and then at Colorado to end the year. So there's some winnable games on that schedule, but I think there are some losable games on that schedule that could push them all the way down. And I think the development of the offensive line is the question mark for me with UCF. So right now, number 14 is UCF. I just believe right now that is the best possible spot to put them. I think if they can get the offensive line to gel, they can add some more toughness to that team. I believe that UCF could be a team that you look at and think, this team could be something. This team could be something in the future, I believe. Right now, I just think 14 is suffice right now for them. So number 14, UCF in the conference standing projections for the Big 12. Next up, number 13 on our list is Baylor. Number 13 is Baylor. And to me, you look at Baylor, and this is just my thoughts on it. I think Baylor, and when I look at Baylor, in a minute, there's a lot of teams where you look at when you do this in my world and in my field. You look at this and you're like, okay, this team right here, you circle them, this is going to be a solid team. They end up being a solid team. Then you look at them and you're thinking to yourself, to a team, and you're like, they're not going to be all that good. And then you're right. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you look at them, you're like, okay, they were going to be good, then they end up not being good. And then vice versa. You look at the team that's, I don't think they're going to be all that good. And they surprise everybody, and they're great. Then there's the 50-50s. And you're like, I just can't tell where this could head. I think Baylor, to me, is that team. I really believe that. I think that's why I put them at 13 this year. I think Baylor is a team to me that I'm 50-50 on. I think number 13 is suffice because I just can't tell what the trend is with Baylor and where I'm going with them. And what I mean by that is, look, I think they're giving DJ Lagway a second chance. So DJ Lagway is getting his second win and a second start and a second chance at Baylor to be the starting quarterback. I highly expect him to be the starting quarterback for that team. I think overall they have it's a critical year 7 for Dave Aranda anyway. We're going to get to that in a minute, but I think they do have some weapons coming back, but they also turned a lot over, if that makes sense. So they had a lot of roster turnover, but they can find some difference makers a little bit on that team still. So they still have some difference makers, but they still significantly turned over a lot, and they lost a lot. You get DJ Lagway coming in. I think that the schedule, the overall development of DJ Lagway is the question mark there. Can he be consistent? That's the number one thing. You get a retooled receiving room, Lewis Brown IV, who's very solid. Draylon Miller, Gavin Freeman coming in from Oklahoma State. Jalen Miller came in from Colorado. You get Bryson Washington. Bryson Washington's gone. You get Dawson Pendergrass, and he's back. And then if he's fully healthy, watch out because he's actually a really good running back for them. And then Caden Knighton, the explosive sophomore in the backfield. So you got underrated talent on the offense, but are they experienced enough? That's number one. And can they be consistent enough? So that's the real big question mark for Baylor. Defensively, you have to create turnovers a lot, and I think that's what the Baylor Bears struggled with last year. I think the key area for the defense this year is to try to create chaos on the defense and create some of those turnovers. Can they do that for the on the defensive side of the ball? They got some talent, but can they be consistent as well? I think the key word about Baylor this year is consistency. Can the Bears be consistent enough to make things happen and make dynamic plays happen in games, especially in big-time games? It's a critical year for Dave Aranda because it can't be the same trajectory of hot and cold, going great one year, going kind of down one year. I look at it kind of like, and this is a really weird comparison, maybe not a weird comparison. I kind of look at Baylor as I would say the Big 12 version of South Carolina a little bit. You're 9-win one year, and then you're kind of 4 to 5 win next year. You're kind of just going up and down. You got to maintain a steady pace. Either you're good or you're bad. You're kind of hot and cold. You can't be hot and cold. You got to be consistent. That's why I keep saying be consistent. It's a critical year for Dave Aranda in this spot. The schedule looks like this for Baylor. They have to open up their schedule. Auburn in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe it's a 3:30 Eastern kick, 2:30 Central kick. You get Auburn in a neutral site, first game. Then you got to go back home to play Prairie View A&M, Louisiana Tech at home, Colorado at home. Your first true road game is at Arizona State. Then you got to go back home to play TCU, at Kansas, at UCF, back home against Iowa State, at BYU, back home against Texas Tech, Houston. So the ending stretch is very tough. At BYU, at home against Texas Tech, at Houston. Very tough. They are at the top of, and I'm not trying to be spoiler here. Those three teams are kind of high on my list. So that's how it just shows you how kind of roster wise how good they are going into this year. I think that's a very tough ending to your schedule. And then there are some games where you can coin flip it and you can go either way. I'm putting them at 13 because I think right now the consistency is concerning. I think it's 50-50, and I can't really get a good read just yet on Baylor and how they're going to be. Number 13 is Baylor on our conference standing projections list. I just want to see some consistency from the Baylor Bears. That's really what I want to see from Baylor. Number 12 on our list is Cincinnati. Number 12 is Cincinnati on our conference standing projections for the Big 12. Cincinnati losing Brendan Sorsby, and they are replacing him with a new QB coming in, redshirt junior coming in, J.C. French. Took the majority of the first team reps here in the spring. You do have Liam O'Brien, the transfer, coming in. He brings valuable experience to the room, but I think that they're looking at J.C. French to be the guy to replace Brendan Sorsby at the quarterback spot. So if he's getting the amount of reps that he's getting, it's looking like he's going to fit that, right? Cincinnati entering year 4 under Scott Satterfield. And I would love to have Coach Satterfield on the show as well. It started off really solid for them, and then it just kind of went down at the end of the year. It ended with a Liberty Bowl loss to Navy. Can they kind of bounce back a little bit? So it didn't end the best for them, but can they just rewrite the narrative a little bit? Can they go from 7-5 to an 8-win season or a 9-win season? Can Cincinnati do that? Can they find their footing? And I think they did find their footing a little bit in the Big 12 just before the ending of the season. I think that Utah game really changed a lot for Cincinnati, and it kind of just went a little bit downhill for them. So I think the big thing is offense is getting replaced a lot for Cincinnati, and they're kind of changing up a lot of the scheme, right? They're changing up a lot of the playmakers, the trenches. uh, is the thing that they're not really changing. So a lot of the core is changing. They're adding intriguing pieces transfer portal wise, like Cole Tab. They have Jabrian Payne coming up. Jabrian Payne from Notre Dame. Jabrian Payne, he is coming in from Notre Dame as a running back to be, probably a premier running back for Cincinnati in the Big 12. So they got cool, good running backs. They do have some new portal additions at the receiving production. So here's the difference between Baylor and Cincinnati. Baylor did bring in some guys, but are they consistent enough like the Cincinnati? Are they consistent enough like the Cincinnati guys? Because the portal weapons they brought in some heavy hitters, right? So consistency is a key for Baylor. Cincinnati is not really struggling with that a little bit. They're just struggling with retooling. I think the offensive line and having them as the key position group this season, they're pretty much the best O-line in the sport, in the conference, not the sport, but in the conference. That's saying a lot, and you got to feel really good if you're Scott Satterfield going in to this season. So you look at the returning offensive line, you get all the guys back on the offensive line. They only allowed 8 sacks last year, which is second nationally, only behind Army, which is insane. You bring all that back. That's a huge, huge win if you're the Bearcats. Now, can the weapons around that, though, pick it up? And we'll just have to see. I think they got good running backs to run the rock. It's all according to see if J.C. French can do it at the quarterback spot. Can he be that guy for them, for the Bearcats? We're just going to have to see. So, their schedule, to me, looks like this. Boston College opening up their season against Boston College at home. At home against Western Carolina. At home against Miami, Ohio. Their first Big 12 openers against Kansas State at home. Then they got to go to at Arizona, at West Virginia, back home against Texas Tech, and then Utah, at Houston, at Iowa State, then they got to go back home to Colorado, or go back home to play Colorado, then at BYU. So, they end the season tough. That stretch is, now, keep in mind, at Arizona, at West Virginia, Texas Tech at home, Utah at home, at Houston. That's a tough stretch there. That's spanning from October 3rd all the way to November 7th. That is a very tough stretch for Cincinnati. You're playing against teams that are pretty solid and pretty loaded. Can you survive that stretch? Those are some games where you can make and try to pull it out, but also games that you look at and you may lose. Can you survive that stretch? I don't know. I just don't know, especially with a lot of the retooling that's happening on the offense, a little bit of retooling on the defense. I just don't know right now at this moment. Tough stretch, schedule-wise. Can Cincinnati do it? We'll just have to see. On our list right now, though, number 12 to finish the season in the Big 12, number 12 is Cincinnati. Number 11 on our list is Kansas. Number 11 for the conference standing projections for the Big 12 is Kansas. Man, Jalen Daniels no longer there. Lance Leipold is now entering his next season as Jayhawks head coach. You lose out on Jalen Daniels, who has been there. It seems like he's been there for a long time. I mean, he really has. He's been there for, 5 to 6 years. Can they get over the hump in the Big 12? Can they do it without Jalen Daniels? I think that's a really big question mark there. He's entering his 6th season as head coach. They had a magical 9-win season in 2023. They went undefeated mid-year, then they lost it. Back-to-back campaigns of 5-7, which is kind of a bummer after a really, really solid 2023 with a 9-win year. Can they find their way back and find that footing back? Even though you have Jalen Daniels, he was a solid quarterback, do you have more of the weapons around you on the offensive side of the ball and defensively to try to pick that slack up from 5-7 and to win a little bit more games this year? Can you get back on the right track? Can you go back and do what you did in 2023? Do you have that? That's the real question. Now, they had to hit the portal pretty good because they had to patch up a lot of holes, especially, in the trenches. And I think that's a big thing. You got to patch some holes up in the trenches, and you got to inject some new life into the offense now that Daniels is no longer there. So, quarterback-wise, it's a three-way battle right now between dynamic dual threat, Isaiah Marshall, Rice transferred, Chase Jenkins, but right now leading the hunt in the battle, and it's looking like he's going to start and win the job, it's Cole Ballard, who was the backup for Jalen Daniels last year. He knows the offense well, and he knows the system well, so I would think Cole Ballard gets the job. I would think. I think a lot of people are saying that he's probably going to be the most underrated quarterback in the conference, which he very well could be. I'm not saying that at all. We're just going to have to see what happens. Dylan Edwards in the running game is there, the Colorado and Kansas State transfer. He is a Jayhawk now, so you get him. If he can stay healthy, that adds a huge boost to your running game, a huge boost. So if he can stay healthy, he can be all right. You also get Syracuse transfer Yasin Willis. So if you get Yasin Willis back there, rotating as a power back with Dylan Edwards, you should be solid in the running game. So Cam Pickett coming back. You get Najee Cox. You got Nick McMillan from Buffalo, Najee Cox from Middle Tennessee to stretch the field, the receiving core, and to spread out with them. Underrated receiving core. They could do a little bit better, maybe, but it's not terrible. Those are some good receivers that you got on your offense that can make things happen. So, if you got that going, I think the big question is, how are you going to hold up in the trenches? Another trench problem. How are you going to hold up front? And I think that's the real the problem. UCF had the problem. Now we're going to Kansas. Can you hold up front? I think the offensive line, big question mark there. I think the defensive line, a little bit of a question mark there as well. I think the defense overall was a struggle last year. Can they be a little bit better and a little bit more consistent and a little bit more physical this year? So those are the big two question marks that I have for Kansas this year. Offensive line, and could the defense be a little bit more consistent? So I think those are the two question marks I have for the Jayhawks. Their schedule's unique. Their schedule is interesting. You got LIU to start the season. You play Mizzou in the Border Showdown at home. You play Arizona State at home. You play Middle Tennessee at home. So you start off kind of good. Very interesting game in Arizona State. Excuse me, you don't even play Arizona State at home. You play Arizona State in London, England. Another international game. Why? I don't know. But we have an international game. So first two games at home, you play Arizona State in London, back home against Middle Tennessee, at Utah. Very tough test there, at Utah. At Kansas State, back home against Baylor. At TCU, back home against UCF. At West Virginia, back home against BYU. You end the season at Oklahoma State. Those are some winnable games if you can get your consistency going on defense and develop the offensive line. I think there's some winnable games on that stretch if they get it together and put all the unity together and put the pieces together. Kansas is like a team where they can go from 11 to probably in the top 5 in the Big 12. I'm not joking because they have the roster set up, but can they be consistent and can they have unity on the offensive line? Because that's a big problem right now, retooling the offensive line. So right now, that's why I have them at 11. Right now, that is why I have them at 11th in the Big 12 conference standing projections. 11th for Kansas in our Big 12 conference standing projections. So, can they do it? We're just going to have to see for the Jayhawks. But that's number 11 on our conference standing projections. Number 10 is TCU. Number 10, we're getting there, guys. Number 10 is TCU. I think for TCU, it's a critical year for Sonny Dykes. There's just a lot of critical years for everybody, it seems like. With out in the ACC, out in the Big 12. I think it's a critical year in terms of trying to get back on track and to get some momentum. I'm not saying, he's on the hot seat or anything like that. I said that he was kind of on the hot seat, sort of on this last Thursday with George Reister. I do think, though, I don't think he's on the hot seat immediately, but I think if we have another inconsistent season again, it's heading that way. And I don't want that for Sonny Dykes because I like Sonny Dykes. I like him at TCU, and I honestly want to see him do well at TCU once again. I think that the TCU has not been right since that national championship game against Georgia. Hadn't been right since. They opened up against Colorado in 2023, lost that, and then after that, they just kind of went up and down, up and down. We're just going to have to see what happens, honestly. I mean, they enter a new era. So Josh Hoover, gone. He shipped off to Indiana into the portal. So you get out of the portal, Jaden Craig. He's a Harvard graduate transfer. Very smart. He was first team All-Ivy League in 2025, and he set the Harvard Crimson's career touchdown passing record. So Sonny Dykes, obviously, he is, known for, the moderated air raid type system. He can honestly, maybe Jaden Craig can fit into that system. It's looking like he may start at quarterback for them. Look, 25 touchdowns last year. He had 2,900 passing yards. He may can fit this system, right? So we'll have to see. The receiving core is actually pretty solid. So you get Major Everhart, Dozie Izukama, and you get Major Everhart there as well. Jordan Dyer is coming back for them as well. So you get 3 good receivers there. You have Jeremy Payne back again. You have John Denneman back also as well. So you got 2 good, solid running backs, 3 solid targets at the receiving core if you're Jaden Craig. So you're kind of filling the offense up, and it can be an underrated system for Sonny Dykes this year. So I'm not really worried about the core things. I think that offensive line is going to be not too terrible, which is good. You get Cade Bennett there as well. I think defensive line, especially linebackers, are solid. You bring back some experienced players on the defense, which is solid. And I think that you bring down some good experienced players on the defensive line as well. So defensively, they're solid. I think offensively, they can become solid. I think the question mark really is, can they coach consistently? And I think that comes down to Sonny Dykes and the coaching staff. Can they coach consistently? And can they game plan around a lot of these teams on their schedule? So can they just be consistent? Now, I hype TCU up because I want TCU to be in the top 10, and they're not number 10 for a reason. But I'm also very concerned because week 1 in their game, they play, it's not even week 1, week 0, they play North Carolina. Week 0 in Dublin. So they have the Dublin game this year. You guys know how I feel about the Dublin game. I joke and say it's the Dublin curse, but I'm starting to believe a little bit that game might be cursed because whoever loses, wins, it seems like, too. If you win, what are you really getting out of the season? But if you may win a few more games than your losing opponent, but if you lose this game, you go on to have a really bad season, For example, or a bad season in general. Florida State and then Kansas State are the 2 prime examples for that, back to back. So you have that. And then if you're TCU, right, you win, you still might kind of have a bad season. Iowa State didn't have really all that good of a year last year either. So, again, you look at the Dublin game and you're scared a little bit. So let's just say they make it past and they win that one against North Carolina. Then you got Grambling State at home. Then you got Arkansas State at home. You got at UCF. You got BYU at home. At Baylor. Back home against West Virginia. Kansas at home. At Arizona. Back home against Kansas State. Utah at Texas Tech to end the year. So, kind of a tough stretch at the end of it. At Arizona, Kansas State, Utah, Texas Tech. That's how you end it. So you win that with those teams. That's your stretch. I think that's a tough stretch. Very tough, especially with the Dublin game coming up. That's why I catapulted them and put them at number 10. I think they have the talent. Can they coach consistently? And the schedule kind of really alarms me a little bit at the ending, especially that Dublin game. I think that Dublin game kind of worries me a little bit. Anybody involved in the Dublin game worries me. everyone's going to be like, let's go to Ireland. No, don't go to Ireland, because it seems like it's not the luck of the Irish. It's like not the luck of the Irish. You know what I mean? Like it's not good. It doesn't see their seasons just doesn't turn out well if you play in that game for some reason. So honestly, number 10 TCU, because a little bit of the coaching consistency, and then the schedule right now, it alarms me a little bit. So number 10 is TCU on the conference standing projection. So number 9, and you're gonna love this one. I mean, at least I hope. Number 9 is West Virginia. Mountain Mama, country road, take me home. Okay, enough. That's what you're saying. Enough. And I get it. I would, Joel, quit singing, man. Please stop. West Virginia is number 9. Rich Rod entering his second year in his second stint back in Morgantown, and he's got a 1-2 punch combo that could, I'm not going to say, nothing's probably going to beat a Pat White, Steve Slayton kind of deal. I was too young for that. I just know from the highlights of watching, nothing's going to really beat that. But you get Michael Hawkins at quarterback, you get Cam Cook at running back, and that's a really good 1-2 punch combo for West Virginia and Rich Rod. He's brought in some talent. I like some of the playmakers that he's bringing in. I like what he's doing at West Virginia because he is comfortable there, and he's really kind of revamped both sides of the ball through the portal, and how their recruiting has not been terrible. So I think, to me, that's why I kind of mentioned and said, really what I said there. So retool wide receiver room, Teron Francis coming in from LSU, DJ Epps coming in from Troy, and then Prince Stratton coming in from USC. Jaden Bray coming back for West Virginia. Cam Cook is going to be electrifying on the ground because he was like the best running back, really at least top 5 running back and top 3 running back in yards, right? With Jack State last year. So coming in to be really good on the ground. So their offense is going to be very underrated this year. It's all about how they're going to be coached and how they're going to step up. I think the trenches, a little bit, I think, are getting retooled a little bit. I think that the concern a little bit is the trenches some, but I think they're going to be more developed than others. But I still think I would keep an eye on the offensive line because Rich Rod does want physical offensive line play. Can they be a little bit more physical up front? And I think that's the question mark there for West Virginia. I think adding a lot in the secondary, guys like Kamari Wilson from Memphis, and then Andrew Paldrell from UNLV coming in. Ben Cutter at the linebacker spot is going to be back, and then Tyler Stolsky from FAU coming in at the linebacker spot. So you got that. What's the defensive line going to look like? That's a question mark there for West Virginia as well. So those are really the 2 question marks. How consistent is the defense? How consistent is West Virginia going to be in the trenches? And I think that's the really main question mark that I have for West Virginia. I put them at 9 because I do like the talent that they have on this team, and I do expect them to be a leg up. Last year, I put them close to dead last. Or I may have put them at dead last. But this year, I have them at number 9. I'm a lot more high on them because I believe that they're going to have a huge upgraded season. I really do. They do have, and they have the talent because of the portal, right? So Coastal Carolina, week 1, at home against UT Martin. Neutral site game against Virginia, Duke's Mayo Classic, back home against Oklahoma State, at Iowa State, back home against Arizona, back home against Cincinnati, at TCU, at Texas Tech, back home against Kansas, Houston at home, at Utah. So that Houston and Utah stretch is a little bit tough, but they don't play BYU. And they avoid an Arizona State even. So they avoid some teams, which is good, but they do have to play some of the tougher teams up at the top, which is going to be a little bit and which could catapult them to number 9. But I think they have the talent to break the top 10, and I do like where they are headed. So to me, number 9, West Virginia on our conference standing projections. Number 8 in the Big 12. We're already at number 8. We're 44 minutes in, and we're at number 8 now, finally. Number 8 in our conference standing projections. we have Kansas State at number 8 in our conference standing projections. Colin Klein coming home. I love this because I grew up watching Colin Klein play for Bill Snyder at Kansas State. He was a dynamic quarterback for them. He threw the ball well. He ran the ball well. He was a big physical quarterback who would run the rock, and he would truck anybody in his way who was in his any defender who was in his path. He was solid for them. He really was. He was the OC at Kansas State, went to Texas A&M to be the OC. Now he's back home replacing Chris Kleiman. Chris Kleiman retired. He is now replacing him as the head coach for the Wildcats, which is pretty cool. And he's got the talent around him, including returning quarterback Avery Johnson, who kind of plays like him a little bit, which is pretty good. So now it's like, okay, you can fit my system well because you're kind of like me a little bit in certain ways. You run with toughness, and then you throw the ball a lot with toughness as well. So you kind of play aggressive like me. You kind of fit what I'm looking for a quarterback. So Colin Klein and Avery Johnson, they can work well together as well. I'm not too concerned, honestly, about the quarterback spot yet. They bring back Avery Johnson. Let's see. On the list here for all the notes, I'm just looking at my notes for Kansas State. You get Blake Barnett, Jacob Knuth back up, as the depth and skill players as well. I think the skill players, to me, and I mentioned skill players, I think Avery Johnson's good, but who is going to be around him is the question mark. You get guys like offensive tackle Tyler Johnson there. You get interior lineman Keaton Jones there. So that's going to help the running game out as well. The backfield with Jay Harris coming in, Joe Jackson coming out. So you got 2 good portal backs there. Isaiah Williams and Josh Manning coming in. You get returning tight ends like Garrett Oakley coming back for them as well. So you got some underrated threats from the portal. So you got some talent. It's can you utilize the skill position. So you do have skill players that are coming in, and it's kind of brand new a little bit in terms of skill position. So I think depth is the concern for Kansas State right now. Do they have the depth? They have the talent, but do they have the depth, especially on the defensive side of the ball? I think that's really one for me. They loaded up on pass rushers. Wendell Gregory coming there for them. Then you got Elijah Hill and Kamari Burns. Those are 2 good ones. Coy Beasley at safety back there. Adrian Maddox at defensive back. They'll make immediate impacts as well. So you got talent there. But there is some depth, and I think that's the real concern right now is the depth for the team. So depth is my question mark. What's going to happen there? I think they have some talent, but the depth is the key thing there. They play Nichols their first game. Washington State at home as well. Then they play Tulane at home. Then they go at Cincinnati. Back home against Houston. Kansas at home, at Arizona State, at Colorado, back home against Oklahoma State, at TCU, back home against Arizona, at Iowa State to end their year. So they have winnable games. They also have losable games. That could probably drop them to number 8. Will the depth hold up? How much depth do they have? And I think that's the real concern for me right now with Kansas State. But right now, I think number 8 is Kansas State because I think they have the talent, and I think they can make that big splash with Colin Klein next year and back into the top of the Big 12. So number 8 is Kansas State on our conference standing projections. Number 7 is Arizona State, a team that won the Big 12 2 years ago is now number 7. They went from having we were having a top 5 team last year. Now they're at number 7 on our list. You do lose Sam Levitt to LSU. You do lose, some guys to the portal and to the draft. But quarterback's going to be very fascinating and interesting. You get Mikey Keene coming in. He brings a lot of experience there, coming in from, Michigan and Fresno State. Then you got, he'll probably win the job, but you also got Cutter Boley coming in from Kentucky. And then Jake Fetty out of El Paso, the highly touted freshman quarterback. So that's the quarterback room there right now. I believe Mikey King will start, and then if Cutter Boley stays, it will then turn over to him. Is what I'm thinking about. You get very underrated dynamic running backs with Jason Brown, David Avett coming back as well, and then Jalen Moss and Corey Butler coming in at the receiving core as well. So you got the players. Kamari Anderson coming in at the tight end spot. Can you have, especially, I would say, in the secondary and the linebacker spot, is the depth looking good there as well? I think the depth of the team is a concern. I think the physicalness and the toughness of the team is also a little bit of a concern as well if you're Arizona State. I think those are the two question marks that I got for Arizona State as they head into the season, and I think, to me, that's why I catapulted them a little bit to number 7 on our conference standing projections. I think offensive line, they got 2 good guys there. Otherwise, what's the depth looking like of the offensive line? So those are my really question marks for Arizona State, but I put them at number 7 because I think there are some winnable games on their schedule. Morgan State, number 1. That's a winnable game. At Texas A&M, could go either way. At Kansas. Baylor at home. Hawaii at home. At Texas Tech. At home against Kansas State. At BYU. Home against Colorado. At UCF. At Oklahoma State. At Arizona. So their schedule's kind of up and down. Like they'll catch a break, and then they'll have a stretch. Then they'll catch a break. So it's like, it's kind of up and down a little bit. There's some winnable games on that schedule, but do they have the depth to run the table? Do they have the physicalness and the toughness to run the table? And I just don't know just yet about that. So right now, number 7 on our list is Arizona State in our conference standing projections. Number 6 on our conference standing projections for the Big 12. Number 6 is Oklahoma State. Yes, I put them way higher this year. I believe in Eric Morris. North Texas North is what we're going to call them because they brought in all their talent from North Texas, including quarterback Drew Mestemaker, who I think will be the breakout candidate in the Big 12 at quarterback, along with star running back Caleb Hawkins, who's going to be a dynamic running back threat in the Big 12 and in the sport of college football. 1-2 punch there is going to be good. Mestemaker can sling it all around the field. You bring in guys from North Texas at the receiving core as well. Defensively, you bring in guys like Caleb Bacon and Tyler Moore. It sets the tone. I think you got the talent to start off with. I think the year one rebuild and the transition is going to be the question mark there. Can they pick it up all quick? Can they pick up the adjustments quick? I think that there are playing teams ahead of them that will probably drop them to number 6. I think there are some games that on that schedule, while they do have the talent, are they really ready yet to play some of these teams? And I think that's the real big question mark about Oklahoma State going in. I look at them like the Auburn of the Big 12. Like, they're going to overachieve. I think they will overachieve. That's why I put them at number 6. But I'm not going to go too far with it because I think there are teams on their schedule that they play that you look at and you're thinking, I can drop them down to number 6. So, right now, for Oklahoma State, number 1 is at Tulsa. They play at Tulsa. Then they go back home to play Oregon. That could be a 1-1 split there. Murray State at home, at West Virginia. UCF at home, at Houston, at home against Colorado, at Iowa State, at Kansas State, at home against Texas Tech, at Arizona State, Kansas at home, and that's how they end their year. So they avoid BYU. They avoid Utah. They avoid Houston. But they play Houston. They avoid Arizona and avoid Utah and BYU. But they still play Texas Tech. They still play Houston, Kansas State, and Arizona State. So there's some games on their schedule you look at and you're thinking, they're good, but are they going to be better than some of these other teams they play, like a Texas Tech, like a Houston? Because now we're getting into that rankings where if you drop 2 or 3 games, you're number 6 in the standings, right? So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. But right now, number 6 is number 6 is Oklahoma State on our conference standing projections list for the Big 12. Number 6 is Oklahoma State up in Stillwater. Number 5 is Utah. Morgan Scaley entered. Morgan Scaley back, now the head coach for Utah. Kyle Whittingham going to Michigan. Morgan Scaley, who was the head coach in waiting, is now the in-waiting tag's off. It's head coach Morgan Scaley for the Utah Utes. He is there, had a great victory against Nebraska to kick off his regime, kick off his era of Utah football. He's excited. He's ready to rock and roll. Devin Dampier's back, and that's what makes a huge difference on why I put them at number 5. Solid quarterback. You also get Bird Ficklin back as the backup, and he was a solid quarterback for them as well. So you get both of those guys back. Great weapons in the running game. You get Wayshawn Parker back, Daniel Bray there. You get some guys. You get Creed Whittenmore, Larry Simmons at the receiving core there as well. So you bring in some talent. You bring in some veteran leadership on the defensive side of the ball. So you get some loaded guys coming back and veteran presence on this football team that if Utah it's like Louisville a little bit. They're at number 5, but if some key pieces ahead of them kind of just slip down a little bit, Utah will sneak in and probably go to the Big 12 title game with some of the talent they have on their team. They're fast. And they're loaded on both sides of the ball. I think they're loaded, but I think supporting as in the trenches, and then the trenches are a little bit of a question mark, tiny bit. I think being consistent in the trenches is a little bit of a question mark right there for Utah, and how healthy is Utah going to be during the stretch. So I think those are the two biggest question marks that I have for Utah. But overall, they're loaded, man, and I think number 5, to me, is a good spot for them because I think the teams that are ahead of them might have a little bit of a better stretch coming down. So, opening up, they play Idaho. So, Idaho, week 1, a home game for them. They play Arkansas at home. They play Utah State at home, at Iowa State, back home against Kansas, at Colorado, back home against Houston, at Cincinnati, back home against BYU, at Arizona, at TCU, West Virginia. Their schedule is favorable, but there's some games on their schedule that they could drop. Arizona, BYU, they play Houston. 3 games there that you look at and you're thinking, that could go either way for Utah. And that's why I put them at number 5, because those are games that could split a little bit. And you're thinking that could go either way for them. They could either win out everything and go to the Big 12 championship, or they split some of those games and they drop some of those games and they're at 5. So number 5 right now, I believe, is Utah. I don't know. Their schedule, there are some games on their schedule where they can drop, and I can see them losing. So right now, number 5 on our conference name projections for Big 12 is Utah. Number 4 is Arizona. I believe in Brent Brennan entering his 3rd year. I believe that Brent Brennan had a really solid year last year, going from a down year his first year, rebuilding, to catapulting into what I believe was a 9-win year last year. So, good year last year, 9-win campaign into the holiday and a trip to the Holiday Bowl. Good year last year. Can they keep up that momentum? And that's a big question mark. And can they do it with Noah Fafita playing at a high level at quarterback for them? So big question marks there. If you're Arizona, you get Noah Fafita back, coming back for one more year, which is solid. He could have entered the portal. He could have gone to the draft if he wanted to. He decided to stay for the Wildcats, and that's a huge win for them. So we're going to see what's going to happen there. He could be active career leader in touchdown passes. He became the first Wildcat in 50 years. This is a stat, by the way. Became the first Arizona Wildcat in 50 years to earn first-team all-conference honors last year. Really, he's a dark horse for the Heisman. He could be if he plays at a high level. Keep an eye on Noah Fafita, dude. He is a really solid quarterback. You get guys like Kedrick Riscano coming there to be the overall number 1 guy at running back. Antoine Roberts there as well. You get Trey Spivey there, Chris Hunter. So you got guys with the receiving core there that you look at, and those are talented, speedy receivers. So he's got some playmakers around him. Can the defense really hold up consistently in big games? But not only that, can they stay healthy a little bit? I think that's the question mark with Arizona a little bit. But we're just going to have to see. I think Arizona's a really strong contender to make a splash, and could, if anybody else slips up, like I said, go to the Big 12 championship maybe. So we're going to have to see. I just don't know yet. I put them at number 4 because I think they could drop some of these games. I think they could drop some games. I really do. Like normal, at BYU is their conference game. That's their opening conference game. Northern Arizona, their first game, at BYU, Northern Illinois, at Washington State, at home against Cincinnati, at West Virginia, back home against Iowa State, at Texas Tech, at home against TCU, back home against Utah, at Kansas State, and then Arizona State. So kind of a tough schedule navigating that. There's some games on there that they could very well win, but there's also some games that you look at and you're like, that's probably going to be too much. They may eat a loss there. So that's why I put them at number 4. Can they stay healthy enough to survive the gauntlet? I have them at number 4. I think they're going to be a solid team. If anybody slips up, they could easily slip into the top 2. Easily. So number 4 on our conference standing projections list for the Big 12 is Arizona. Now, number 3, 2, and 1. Right outside the top 2. Number 3 is Houston. They went from number 11 to number 3 this year. They played really well last year. I think they are right on the outside looking in, and they were kind of like that last year on the outside looking in, along with Arizona and Utah last year. They were on the outside looking in last year. So Houston with Willie Fritz, I believe, has got the talent. I think tight end's a question mark a little bit, and special teams is a question mark a little bit. I think being consistent a little bit on the defensive line is a little bit of got to be a little bit of a question mark. But offensive line, I think quarterback wise, I think the playmakers around them are going to be really solid. Connor Wingman coming back, playing at a better level than he ever did at Texas A&M. Now finding his footing in Houston. If he goes down, you still got Keyshawn Henderson coming in, the freshman quarterback who was throwing darts in the spring. You got the talent. Can you utilize it and go down the stretch and make it happen? There's some games on their schedule you look at and you're thinking, okay, like that could be a loss, but you could. I'm looking at them and they're wins. There's some wins on that schedule. Oregon State at home, Southern at home. They're week 3. They're opening up against Texas Tech. That could go either way, and that could change the trajectory of the whole Big 12 if Houston can upset Texas Tech. At Georgia Southern, which is a very weird, interesting out-of-conference game for them. UCF at home, at Kansas State. Oklahoma State at home, at Utah, Cincinnati. Tough game stretch there. Oklahoma State, Utah, Cincinnati. At Colorado, at West Virginia, back home against Baylor. So, winnable games there. Can they win their first conference opener against Texas Tech? Can that change the trajectory of it all? We'll see. Right now, I have it at number 3 because I think the teams ahead of them are just a tiny bit more ahead than Houston is right now. But right now, Willie Fritz has got them rolling. Number 3 is Houston on our conference standing projections for the Big 12. Number 2 is BYU. I know. Number 2 is BYU. And BYU is a really good team. You're returning Bear Bachmeier. You're returning LJ Martin in the 1-2 punch there on the ground. The ground game is going to be good. You're returning a lot of talent on offense, which is solid. Offensive line is going to be good. Can the defense be physical? Now that Jay Hill is at Michigan, can the defense be really, with Coach Kelly there, can they be physical, for BYU? That's a really big question mark for BYU down the stretch. Can they be tough and physical, especially in the trenches? That's a really big question mark that I got for them. I believe in Kalani Sitake as head coach, though. He's a really good coach for them, and they should be all right. So, Utah Tech to open up their season. Arizona at home, at Colorado State, at TCU. Iowa State at home. Notre Dame, big one there. At a conference, but still big one. At UCF. Back home against Arizona State, at Utah, Baylor at home, at Kansas, Cincinnati to end their year. They avoid playing Texas Tech altogether. I think they should be favored in majority of those games. I think they probably could and probably will win a lot of those games, and that will punch their ticket into the Big 12 title. I think that's going to punch their ticket into the Big 12 title. I really do. Utah is a schedule. You get Arizona. You avoid Houston. So Houston's going to have to wait and see. Maybe even beat Texas Tech. But I think some of these games that you look at, BYU with the talent that they have, it's hard for me to sit there and say that BYU doesn't get in again in the Big 12 title game. So number 2 is BYU. BYU going to Dallas. Finishing number one on our conference standing projections. You already know Texas Tech. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, dude, boo. You know what I mean? Oh, Joel, just boo on that. Man, I get it. A lot of people are mad at Texas Tech in the college football world right now. A lot of the Sorsby stuff, all that. To me, and a lot of people are going to say Sorsby's good, and he is good. And I've said this. He is good. But y'all can agree with me on this, I believe. To me, they really... Sorsby's good, and it's a plus if they have him. But they still have the best team coming into the Big 12. Roster-wise. They're loaded roster-wise. I just don't see who else right now is at the top of their game like Texas Tech roster-wise right now. NIL-wise, resources-wise, they are added up. They've doubled up and expanded. I just don't see anything right now where you look at Texas Tech and think they don't go back-to-back in the Big 12 right now. Will Hammond is, to me, going to be the starter. Maybe Kirk Francis from Tulsa, the Tulsa transfer, just shines and he ends up taking the job. But right now, I think Will Hammond's their guy. He knows the system. He just can he be fully healthy? That's the real true question about Texas Tech, honestly. So that's what I look at in terms of Texas Tech. They got Cameron Dickey in the backfield running the rock. Defensively, they have Ben Roberts back. They have Brendan Jordan coming in there. They have Amir Boyd Matthews anchoring the trenches and Lee Hunter there as well. Depth-wise on the trenches is a little bit of a concern, but that's really about it. Otherwise, they have a team where they could probably win the Big 12 and make the playoff once again. Will Hammond could be a really strong quarterback for this team and could be one of the best, if not the best, in the Big 12 if he is healthy. I just think they have a target on their back, yeah, but I think they got the talent to overcome that and go the stretch, even with Will Hammond as their quarterback. I really do. A lot of people are saying this may hurt Texas Tech with Brendan Sorsby being gone. I don't think that. I think they got the talent. I really do. Abilene Christian week 1, week 2 against Oregon State. Then they play Houston at home. So at Abilene, home against Abilene, at Oregon State, back home against Houston. Sam Houston. Next, and then they got at Colorado, back home against Arizona State, at Cincinnati, back home against Arizona, back home against West Virginia, at Oklahoma State, at Baylor, back home against TCU. Could they lose one? Maybe. They could. Houston and Oklahoma State could be the ones to keep an eye on, maybe even Kansas State. Excuse me, they don't play Kansas State. Maybe even West Virginia, right? You can keep an eye on that one. Or Arizona. They can keep an eye on Arizona. So you look at all that and think they could drop one, but the way their schedule's lined up, the way their roster is, everything is loaded, and how they are built top to bottom, it's hard for me to say they're not going to be favored in majority, if not all their games, and they'll go on and play BYU in the Big 12 championship. So number one is Texas Tech. We have Texas Tech versus BYU in the Big 12 championship, and we have Texas Tech over BYU. Once again, a rematch, a Big 12 championship rematch, and we have Texas Tech over BYU in the Big 12 championship game once again. So that is our conference standing projections for the Big 12. We will release these tomorrow, which is Friday, on all social platforms, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow and make sure you're, leaving comments below, and make sure you have thoughts on those on that list and conference standing projections. And hey, if you don't, that's fine, but it's going to be on there. So make sure you're following on all socials. I do want to leave off with this, and before we wrap up everything and enjoy the weekend and get ready to rock and roll for Tuesday, because Tuesday we continue on with our conference standing. So I do want to leave off, and before we head out, and leave with this. So I posted something yesterday, and I wanted to elaborate on it because I had some questions on it. I do want to just say it. It's been kind of just on my heart the past couple of days on the show. So no, nothing's happening. I'm just leaving off with some encouragement and some motivation. So right now, I tweeted, and I can elaborate on this tweet, honestly. So let me elaborate on what I tweeted. So I tweeted out on Wednesday. I said, and I quote on X, the one thing I have learned in the college football media space is stay the course. I say it at the end of my show all the time, which I do. Stay the course and your time will come. Keep pursuing your dreams and they will eventually become a reality. As a guy who loves this, whose his dream was to do this, the word no, you will hear that a lot in this space. You will hear the words no, not here, no this, no that. You'll hear a lot of no's. In this space, you'll hear a lot of no's in terms of deals, what have you. You'll hear the word no a lot, okay? I have heard it. A lot of people have heard it. People are hearing it now, who are, I started my show. People who have just now are starting to get the ground rolling on their shows are now hearing it. A lot of people have heard it. A lot of people I've talked to have heard the word no. In this space, you can't take no for an answer. And what I mean by that is don't dwell on the no. If you hear no, take it as not right now. Don't take no for an answer. Don't take no as a loss and as a defeat. If you want this bad enough and you want to be in college ball media space or do anything anything, it's not just applies to this space, it applies to everything in life. If you want something, dream-wise, number one, go to the Lord for it because the Lord will guide your life and guide your plans because his plans are a lot better than ours and anything that we could ever ask for and prayed for. He can take you out of situations because it wasn't good for you. So we praise the Lord and we thank the Lord so much for that. And I do too all the time. You do that. You seek the Lord. Number two, pray for his will for your life. And then number three, stay the course on your dreams and keep pursuing your dreams and your calling that God has placed in you for your life. You chase that, right? That's what you're supposed to do. I was told at a very young age. Well, my parents were told at a very young age. If you don't know my story, if you are a first-time listener, thank you for tuning into the show. I was told I wasn't going to be able to talk. I was supposed to be a grunt and mute the whole time. I wasn't supposed to do this. This wasn't supposed to be me, right? I was supposed to be mute the whole time. I was born with sensory integration dysfunction. I was a guy that was told, you can't hold a pencil. Guess what? I'm holding a pen right now, man. You can't do this. You have to repeat this grade. Guess what? I can repeat the grade. Guess what? I'll come back to your grade and I'll still pass, right? I was told you can't drive. I drive all the time. I was told a lot of stuff. I've been told to stop with Pigskin Frenzy and go do something else. Guess what? It's year 4 and I'm still here. I haven't left. Why? Because I love it. I love it, and I love chasing the dream. I love pursuing the dream. Don't let people who tell you no stop you from doing what you love. Don't let people who tell you no, don't take it as a no permanently. Take it as a no, not right now. Keep pursuing your dream and keep on staying the course. That's the best thing that you can do for anything. That's my thought process. I wanted to leave you with that. Stay the course. Your dreams will eventually become the reality if you keep pursuing them. Guys, I love you all. I'm praying for you all. Coming up on Tuesday, we have Big Ten Conference standing projections. Cannot wait for it, by the way. We are pumped. We're fired up. And we're ready to rock and roll. So until Tuesday, I'm Joel Norris, signing off. We will see you then for Big Ten Conference standing projections on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. For everybody out there, please and always, here it comes. I just mentioned it. As always, stay the course.